we, as MK, disbanded our organization in 1994 when the South African National Defence Force was formed. And we eschewed, we gave up our uniform for the uniform of the Defence Force, for the uniform of the South African Police Service, for public service, whether it was in Foreign Affairs and lately DECO. We gave up those uniforms and we gave up our arms. And we don't have a military force currently. We don't have a uniform currently as MKMVA, as military veterans. And so that's as far as I can say in relation to that. And we don't even have the capacity to provide any security for any establishment, because we don't bear arms, we can't bear arms legally and so on. The security of institutions in the country, for buildings in the country, is the responsibility of the South African Police Service. And the security of the country is the responsibility of many other government institutions, including the South African National Defence Force, or mainly the South African National Defence Force. I don't know if anyone wants to add on this, on the NCC agenda. This obviously has to be worked on between ourselves. We are part of a task team with the ANC NEC in preparation for that National Consultative Conference. But the events of the past few weeks obviously speak to the necessity for the urgency of these things to be dealt with. And of course, it's not just ourselves who are responsible, the stalwarts as well, and the ANC. And we call on the ANC to begin to canvass with us about all those issues that we think should be in that National Consultative Conference, like the agenda, like the participants. We've got our own views. I think other comrades can talk to those about who we think should be participants in such a National Consultative Conference.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Probably just an addition to the issue of MKMVA, those that are parading around the head office. The irony of it is that as a former guerrilla army, we took up arms in support of the angry protest of our people. And today we're the ones who wants to defend, or who proclaim to be defending, the head office against the angry protest of our people whom we fought for. It's a serious irony. Whether they come from an opposition or they come from ANC members who are disgruntled by what is happening in the country. Therefore, we may not and shall not condone such activities. We'll condemn them with the strongest possible terms. But anyone, indeed, who's MK and understood as to why he joins that People's Army called Umkhonto weSizwe, we've never took an oath to find ourselves fighting against our own people, but rather we've always been in support to their angry protest against the system. So certainly there's something wrong that is happening currently that makes people stand up against their very same organization. And those are the things that needs to be addressed. And they can be adequately addressed at the National Consultative Conference. The next question was about how do we feel about the current leadership? Do we think or do we feel that it still represents what we stood up and fought for? In whose name? A number of things are not right. We never thought we'll find ourselves in our lifetime addressing the media for the organization that we so dearly love. That in itself indicates that a lot is not right in the organization. And therefore, even the leadership that is there, it's no longer the leadership that speaks in one voice. There's no unanimity on issues that affect its members, on issues that affect the country. We therefore feel that they don't represent the same values that we spoke about in the press release that the General read earlier on. And these are some of the issues that we have made ourselves available to sit down with them so that we could address. Those are not the issues of individuals, the issues that affect this formerly mighty organization. I think those are the issues that I wanted to add on.
Just to add to what General Nyanda said, with respect to categories of people who we think and believe should be part of the consultative conference. As he has indicated, we are part of a task team that is preparing for that conference. Our approach is that we are seeking a moment for the ANC as a party, the ANC as an institution, to look at itself very critically and very courageously with the view to putting things back in order within the ANC. And obviously, the people who would, in our view, be helpful in achieving that is firstly the elected leadership of the ANC as it stands now. And it starts from the NEC right at the top there, to the provincial executives of the ANC, and to the elected regional collectives of the ANC. That leadership, it is important that it must be at that dialogue. But of course, added to that, we are very clear that another segment within the organization of people who will assist a discussion that will really find lasting solutions to our problems, it's the community of members and cadres who have performed duties within the organization before, e.g., all former members of the national executive over time in the ANC who are still alive. They have had exposure to, where the organization comes from. They have been tested by all manner of situations the organization encountered before. So for them to be part of the discussion of today's problem would obviously strengthen, inputs in that discussion. But you're also talking about other, coteries of ANC cadres, for instance, those who have served in the PMC of the ANC, the Political Military Council of the ANC before its unbanning, because that was a structure that was responsible for internal political and military work of the organization. That is a structure of comrades who were exposed to challenges of, on the ground of building the organization into the, big movement that it is today. So they would bring in, of course, the organizational memory about, how we got to where we are today. But you also have, another coterie of cadres who were representatives of the ANC in different countries all over the globe. They represent, senior cadres within the organization. So all of those comrades who were chief reps of the ANC across the globe, it is important that they must be in the same room also to bring in whatever they can contribute to finding these solutions. But internally, the ANC had underground leadership. During the era of the mass democratic movement, it had leadership organs underground in the country. And for instance, when the ANC was unbanned, it had internal leadership corps established in the 14 regions of the country then, before the structure was changed into the provinces of today. So all of those interim leadership corps that were in the 14 regions of the ANC, everybody who's still alive, if they can be part of that discussion, we are very clear that it would strengthen our ability in that consultative conference to come up with the right, solutions. But, I'm just saying this to give a sense of what our thinking is about who must be at that consultative conference. It is an ANC consultative conference. Yes, politically speaking, the ANC has been the leader of a broad mass democratic movement that sought to achieve a united non-racial democratic South Africa. The ANC, the party, was a narrow, if you like, it's a narrow definition of what the ANC stood for. You had a broader movement. At the time, there are many structures that we can make reference to, that were part of the broad front that the ANC has been leading. The point is, how do we make it a point that all the leadership of that broad movement are part of this discussion? It's something that the task team must look into, but the logic from which the Council of MK is moving from is that we want, in order to save South Africa, we've got to save the ANC, because we appreciate the heritage value that the institution, the ANC, is to the success of the country going forward. The Save South Africa initiative, it's an initiative of people who, some of them were ANC members, some of them sit outside of the ANC. Whether it would be appropriate for Save South Africa and any other body who sits outside of the ANC fold to be part of that discussion, those are areas where the task team that is preparing for this conference must actually take very clear, decisions and provide guidelines. But we are clear that this is a consultative conference of the ANC, not of ANC, broad, supporters. It is to solve the problems of ANC, the party, the institution.
Open up for another round.
News 24. Before holding this press conference, had you communicated your call to Massoud SGO's office? Because that's where it needs to be. Second question is that, do you think that a separate consultative forum conference, separated from the policy conference, would win favor within the NEC, given that in the past the decision was that it should be only 2 days of that policy conference? Do you think that this time around, if it's taken to the NEC, it will be in favor, assuming that you have also been lobbying members of the NEC to agree to a consultative conference, a separate one? Are you seeing progress in that? And then the last question is around your relationship with the MKMVA, the association. You're supposed to be going to conference, which is supposed to be in May, but I understand that there's been disagreements in terms of who would be the delegates at that conference. Have those been resolved?
Yeah, my name is Eric, I'm a citizen. Part of my question is to ask regarding the National Consultative Conference. According to the veterans standards, there has been moves to try and address the decision reached on this issue by the ANC, some of this regarding whether they agreed or not agreed. It looks like some of them say that they don't agree to the NCC. Where does it come? And how do you explain that? Are they going to, for the opposition, are they going to now agree to carry on with the NCC? Secondly, is this question of, going back to the question of the deployment of MK people outside the house. There was concern about the ages of some of them, as young as 30 and less, wearing ex-MK. But this Mapatso defended their president to say that these youngsters, many of them were recruited as part of the detachment, which when you calculate from that period, you find that some of them were not even born. So I've been wondering, really, where did they come from? And who are they? Which was the question that was also asked by the studies.
What question?
My question would be, the president of the ANC yesterday said he would graciously step down in his uniform if the ANC were to recall him. The NEC member, Mtshela Mutsenga, has called for a special NEC meeting ahead of the vote of no confidence in Parliament. In my understanding, Mr. Bangpa is the deputy minister. How would you be voting in that vote of no confidence? Would you be voting along the party line, or would you be voting with the conscience? You know very well the problem is facing the ANC and that of the behavior of the President Jacob Zuma. Then the last question would be, how far are your discussions with the MKMVA leadership under KP Mahari in the conference that you want to have?
So just clarity, on the issue of canning the plans for the policy conference, is it because you believe the policy conference must happen after the consultative conference?
Yeah, okay. I'll attempt to run through most of the questions asked, and then other panel members will also add. Well, I'll answer the last question that has been asked about MK conference and MKMVA conference. And relations with MKMVA, as by both Mahlatsi and Samke. Essentially, we have deadlocked with MKMVA leadership. We have been having meetings for the past month. We set up a preparatory committee in accordance with our conference, our council resolution that the conference of MKMVA must be prepared for jointly. So there was this preparatory committee, but of course the principals would also meet from time to time. I think we met 3 or so more times. the last meeting was on Monday, and that meeting deadlocked. Was Tuesday, Monday, and it deadlocked. And it deadlocked on essentially what is a very critical conference resolution, that the conference must take place in accordance with the structure of military's general detachments. And in fact, it will answer some of the questions that have been asked about who are these young people that we see at funerals and other places, whether it's birthday celebrations and so on. And also what we have come to appreciate and why we have also thought that it is necessary for us to intervene. Because over the period that MK was disbanded, the essential structure of its veterans organization or association changed over time. People became younger, or people were recruited, and matters have then come to a head when we bring into the dialogue or the debate issues of detachments. Because when we have a conference, we want all the people who are genuinely former MK members to participate, or their representatives to participate. The representatives of the detachments that have been in existence in the African National Congress, those representatives must participate in a conference, whether it is an elective conference or any other conference. The deadlock, therefore, has been because the present leadership of MKMVA, we think, wants to see all these people that we don't know dominate in numbers in that conference in order to preserve themselves in the positions in which they are. I think briefly that's what I can say, that we have deadlocked on the most essential part of what our conference, our council resolutions were. And it is because basically they want to play the numbers game so that they bring most of these youngsters that we don't know, who dress in uniforms at all events and do all sorts of things to this conference, so that they swamp conference with numbers of people who are actually not genuine MK people. We have communicated with the SG. We have been in constant communication with the Office of the Secretary General about developments. First of all, we did communicate that we're making progress, that there was a tentative date, or there was a date set for the MK conference, or Veterans Conference, on the 11th of May to the 14th of May. And this deadlock was not the first one. When we deadlocked the first time, we had indicated to them that we were going to go back to the African National Congress, because the ANC had met and told them what our conference resolutions were. And there was general agreement in the ANC that, of course, the ANC also knows militaries to be organized in accordance with detachments. So they were in agreement with us. And also the ANC wanted the conference, the MK conference, to be earlier than any other conference, so that we prepare together, going to other political milestones of the African National Congress, like the NCC and the ANC Veterans Conference. therefore dealt with the issue of the relations with MKMVA. They were supposed to come back to us yesterday about the responses, and they have not done so. So, for all intents and purposes, we have deadlocked, and I have asked the SG, I've informed the SG through an email that we have deadlocked and that we would like to see. And we're going to again formally write to him to say, perhaps the ANC is going to consider some interventions. Because when the first time we deadlocked, we said we're going to go back to the ANC, and then they pleaded, they said no, they won't let us discuss. We are quite capable of resolving these issues. On the NCC, I think Comrade Tabang, who is part of the task team with our stalwarts, can elaborate more. But essentially, I think the last time they had a meeting, there was this movement backwards, in that the National Working Committee people were claiming that there'd never been an agreement on a national consultative conference in the manner in which we were proposing. In fact, that there was going to be 2 days before the policy conference, concerns of the stalwarts and veterans and us. But we think the reason why we are now proposing again an urgent reconsideration of the ANC is because of the present political situation, where the crisis within the African National Congress has been made even more stark. The ANC is divided right at the top. There is this motion of no confidence proposed, and there are marches calling for the president to step down. It's unprecedented activity following the downgrade by the ratings agencies. So we think that it is possible for people, and of course the other members of the ANC, of the NEC of the ANC, are calling for the National Executive Committee to meet in order to discuss what is now a really deep crisis for the movement, where the death of a stalwart of the African National Congress, the number one signatory to that 101 document, produces such ramifications, has such ramifications on the political situation. So we think that it is possible that the ANC itself will see through to relooking, because the NEC actually did take a resolution, did take a decision for an NCC to take place, and this was communicated to everybody. It was communicated publicly. So it's just people reneging on a commitment that they had made, and of course using their power or what they think is their power, although they don't have that power. The National Working Committee cannot override a decision of the National Executive Committee. So we think they can still be persuaded, and we're giving the leadership of the ANC a chance to reconsider and to recognize that the ANC can only be solved by sitting together with its veterans, with its military veterans, with its stalwarts, with all the people who have got the love of the ANC, and address the questions, the issues that bedevil the organization.
No, thank you, General. To add to this point about the apparent disillusionment within the veterans group of the 101 class with progress in preparing for the consultative conference. I think your observation is, I think it's correct, that it would appear that within the veterans group of the 101 class, there are individuals who hold a strong view that there are no prospects for success in this initiative. But our understanding, arising out of the formal interactions with the 101, meetings we've been invited to,